Hi, everybody. It's such an honor, such a privilege to be here with everybody. We appreciate you for making the time and space to connect with us and just being here. We know life is life in. So, with all of that being said, we want to take a few minutes to ask you to check in through the chat feature. So, if you can please take a moment to introduce yourself, which means share your name, your pronouns, where you're joining us from, and what brings you to today's webinar. Um, and with that being said, my name is Michelle Diaz, pronounced she, her, based in New York, but I was born and raised in El Salvador, and I'm a senior director with Justice and Joy National Collaborative. So without further ado, I want to pass the mic to Kalisha to take a moment to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here with you. Kalisha De Jesus Figures. I use the pronoun she, her, hers. Based in Mobile, Alabama. Proud mama of four. And I'm a strategist across the gender justice space. And I will pass it over to Jeanette.
Thank you, Kalisha. Hey, everybody, I'm Jeanette Pi Espinoza, she, her, hers. I'm president and CEO of Justice and Joy National Collaborative, and I'm in Portland, Oregon. And I have been here 19 years, going on my 20th year, and very excited to be here with all of you and to see this kickoff finally. I'm going to send it to Audie.
Hi everyone, Audie, she, her, and I'm currently based in Iowa and I'm a grant maker. Perfect. Thank you, Audie. I am Carrie Hatfield. It's nice to be with everybody today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to join us. I am a Senior Director of Strategic Communication and Sustainability here at Justice and Joy, and I've been here coming up on 5 years now. And I have the honor of serving as part of the grant making committee, and I will also be providing tech support today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A feature. And I'm seeing people introduce themselves in the chat. Love to see that. Again, thank you all for being here today, and I will turn it back over to Michelle.
Thank you so much. Everybody needs a tech support, so I'm grateful that you're here. Alrighty. So with that being said, just wanted to, we know that
Oh.
literally 55 minutes is gonna just go in a blink of an eye. So with that being said, through today's conversation with all of you, we just wanted to take a moment to set the stage, tell you a little bit more of who Justice and Joy is. We want to be able to share with all of you what Heal Collective is, the opportunity in itself, the process, and just the timeline that we're on. But most importantly, to talk a little bit, to go into a conversation with the people that are going to be making decisions that are like helping us drive this vehicle, which, as Carrie share, she's not just co-leading this, but also she's, like part of the grant making. Audie, who's, been doing a lot of national work in the youth justice field. Kalisha, who's also like a superstar that's been doing a lot of great work across the country for and with girls. So with all of that being said, I want to take a moment to pass the mic to Jeanette to lead us through setting the stage. We'll share with all of you a quick PowerPoint. It's only going to take a few minutes. Please know that everybody is going to be able to have access to it after this webinar as well. Take it away, Jeanette.
Thanks, Michelle. So welcome again to this informational webinar about the HEAL Collective and this current grant making opportunity. I am going to do my best to not read you slides, but to add content to the slides, to emphasize the slides. I do want to say, we had hoped that we would be able to see everybody, but we hit our limit. We actually, as of this morning, had 440 registrants signed up to attend. So please forgive us for that. We're here with you at heart, soul, spirit, but we're not going to be able to see you, but you can see as people click on the participants tab how many people are here, and really exciting to see everybody sign in, to see where everyone's from. We can take the next slide, Michelle.
Carrie.
Carrie.
Oh, our apologies.
All right, so who is Justice and Joy National Collaborative? I'm guessing that most of you have, if you didn't know who we are, have Googled us by now because you're on this call. I will just add that we are actually a 143-year-old organization. We set out to reinvent ourselves in 2007 and have really harnessed the power of our legacy. We have partners across the country in about 48 states. That's organizations, local governments, state governments, county governments, and individual young folks around the country who do advocacy and policy work with us. Next slide. So the opportunity, this has been a long time coming. I can't even tell you how excited we are to be able to offer this opportunity. A couple things about what you see on the slide. The first bullet, we're using the term movement ecosystem. And the reason we're saying movement ecosystem is that we hope that this ecosystem that we become the HEAL Collective contains many movements, because we all recognize that issues cross, connect, and we want to be able to really harness that in a way that helps us to achieve true collective power. So our hope is that one day you'll be sitting in a room next to climate justice advocates and housing advocates and all different sectors, and that we are together advancing a shared initiative and agenda that will move justice and joy forward for girls and gender expansive young people of color. Next slide. So who are we looking for? I'll go over each category and give you some examples, because I know we've already received some questions about how do we define each of these categories. I just want to emphasize that this is the first time we're doing this. This is a new concept. We're launching it together in partnership with all of you. As we move through the different phases, we're going to be reaching out for opinions, thoughts as we design this going into the future. It is called the HEAL Collective. The collective is more than folks who are getting grantees, but we are starting with making our first round of grants. Eventually, there will be opportunities for individual organizations and individuals to participate in the advocacy and activation work that we want to do in the future. So the first category is existing alliances, networks, and coalitions. So I feel like these are pretty obvious. If not, please ask a question. But if you are operating now and you have, you're convening organizations, or you have members, or if you have associates or affiliates, if alliance is in your name, or you position yourself as a formal network that does advocacy together or does program work together, or you are a coalition, that's the first category. Those would be existing alliances, networks, and coalitions. Now, you don't necessarily have to have your name. That doesn't necessarily have to be in your name, but when we see the information you submit, we have to see that you've been operating for some time as that sort of formal structure. Emerging collective efforts, two different ways to look at this. So one may be that you're an individual organization working in a community or in a state, and you have a very collaborative mode of operating. So you have many partners. You have many partners that you work cross issues and cross activities with, and you collaborate with often, but you haven't ever had maybe the resource or the opportunity to take that to the next level in terms of formalizing that into some sort of alliance, network, or coalitions. That's one way to look at it. The second way is that maybe you are part of an alliance or a coalition that focuses on maybe climate justice, but you don't really have a focus on girls and gender expansive young people of color, but you would like to start a focus within that broader coalition. That would also be what we consider an emerging collective effort. We really want to broaden, we want to enlarge the tent. We want to have climate justice folks sitting at the table along with housing advocates and everybody else. We really want to have a cross-pollination. Youth-led organizing efforts. This is probably the most broad. We really just want to hear the brilliant things that are being led and activated by young people. It could be that you're doing something kind of on a volunteer basis in school. I talked to a young woman who's just entering high school, who has started an informal group in her high school for young women whose families have been impacted by ICE, and maybe she wants to formalize it, and so that we really are open to the creative ideas that come forward that are created and led by young people. I think that's it for me. I'm going to hand it back to Michelle.
Thank you. And before we move on to the next slide, I like as the person who's managing the platform where applications and LOIs are being submitted, wanted to be mindful of people to go back and reflect on this document, but also on our FAQ sheet as well. Like when we say existing emerging alliances, when we talk about youth-led organizing efforts, to go back and refer this, we know how important and crucial direct service work is, but unfortunately, this is not what this funding is for. So again, we need all work with and for our communities, our people. But at this moment in time, just like everybody else, funding is limited. So we just want to make sure that we are keeping on track with what we're looking for. Now we can go to the next slide, Carrie. So, we do want to emphasize that, funding is just one piece of what this work is, right? Like we're looking to build collective power, not just for the next 12 months that people are going to be with us, but for the next 10, 25. And what does that look like? We're going to make this a cohort experience, really talking about challenges, learning with each other, talking about opportunities for collaboration, and so on and so forth. But also, like Justice and Joe will be providing training and technical assistance. What support do you need as an individual? What support does the collective cohort needs? We are requesting that this is part of, in the FAQ, this is part of the LOI. We have one in-person mandated, not mandated, one in-person training, community building with each other that is set to take place in January of 2027. So again, building on that connection, because yes, Zoom has taken us a long way, but there's nothing better than being in person, feeling and sharing each other's energies. And most importantly, again, as I started off with the funding, we are looking to support between 25 to $100,000 for the work to continue to advance the community impact that we're seeking to see. We can go to the next slide, Carrie. And again, all of you have seen this through our FAQ, LOI, and all of it. We just want to keep it consistent. But as I talked through the timeline, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the process that we're going through. So from July 20th to August 31st, LOIs are open. So once you submit your LOI, we'll review it. And then if we see that you're fitting the categories that we're looking to support, we'll move you into the full application process. We did intentionally cut it out from to August 31st because we know that it could take up to 2 weeks for people to submit their applications. So on September 13, we are hoping to have the hard deadline for applications to be submitted. And part of the process of this is, right, you have the LOI, then you get to move to the full application. The grant making committee, which is composed of seven individuals, which right now you get to see three of them. We have four others that are not here. Some of them are staff, some of them are, people that have been doing this work nationally for a long time. Some of them are also, just young people with lived expertise. And that's why we continue to say we are looking to not just fund these vehicles, but also like we need to look at intergeneration. We need to look at being able to share with each other power when it comes to budget decisions, when it comes to strategy and planning and so on and so forth. And then on October 1st, the cohort would actually start off. I think this is important for me to emphasize as well, that everybody who gets an offer to be part of this inaugural cohort will have until September 30th to submit, sign the executed contract. If that doesn't happen, we're going to have to unfortunately move on. So again, keep an eye out on these timelines as well. And this is a 12-month cohort. We do wanted to say, Jeanette continues to say, this is a 3-year initiative at Justice and Joy. We cannot promise people that they will get funding next year, but we're always welcoming past new people to apply. And next slide. And then you have a little bit of our information here. We're always happy to have conversations with each other to try to answer questions. I think what I wanted to say, emphasize this, that as exciting as this is kind of new to us at Justice and Joy. Yes, Justice and Joy has done grant making, but the way that we're making it now, it's so completely different. So kind of like we're building the plane while we're flying. So we're asking all of you to be a little bit of patient with us. We'll get back to everybody just with a little bit of time. And that's about it for the PowerPoint. So with that being said, we're gonna move on now to having a conversation with all of you. And I want to start my first question with you, Kalisha, if it's cool. When you think about the future of this movement, what kind of leadership, partnerships, or innovations do you believe we need the most right now?
So I think thought about a few things. One, we need ones that break the box. And I think we're so used to operating in the realm of possibility, right? And this movement space has been one that has had so many just dynamic, innovative leaders over time, but also has had so many constraints, right? Around focus on these issues and communities, around policy and around advocacy. And I think we can all feel sort of the constraints around us of what we've been told is possible. And I think when I think about the future, I think we really need folks who are willing to break the box, the walls of it, the ceiling of it, and really think outside of those norms and barriers. Number two, I think we need leadership and partnerships and innovation that is authentic. I keep coming back to authentic because I think it's so important. We have seen young people react to our systems, our democracies, our leadership in this country. And to me, the summary has always been, give me something that's authentic. They
Mm-hmm.
respond to what feels authentic, what feels real, what feels like it represents them and their communities. And so I think the second piece is just partnerships that feel authentic, strategies that feel authentic. And I think this is important when you're engaging in coming up with ideas and pitching it over for grants and funding, right? That you're really staying true to what feels authentic to the communities and people that you're representing. And then back to Jeanette's point around like defining what the ecosystem is, I think that we're looking for the future needs partnerships and innovation and strategy that like can see that full ecosystem. It is not about one individual. It is about how young people connect to their homes, to their communities, to the places they exist in, to the systems that they have to interact with, and really strategies that are able to see the through line of all those things. And then I think lastly, this is probably so obvious in a space like this. And although we can't see everybody's face, I'm imagining everyone's in my mind. Um, we need leadership and partnership that are multicultural and intergenerational and reflective of such a broad, diverse set of stories and lived experiences. And I say that in a time where people are really saying the quiet part out loud and saying things like diversity and inclusion and equity don't matter. We need to end it. We need to, like, these are the messages that are actually happening on some of the most formal stages right around this country. And so I think we need to take it back to the basics of what we all know. The future looks intergenerational, multicultural, and it harnesses just the lived experiences and stories of such a diverse set of people.
Oh, thank you so much. That was beautiful. Um, Audie, going back on like being authentic, partnering, working with and for people with lived expertise. So Jeanette and I mentioned about shared leadership. So what does that actually looks like in practice?
Yeah, so I believe that shared leadership moves beyond inviting people to simply voice their concerns, their experiences, and their truth. And instead, it invites them to have an equal partnership in the decision making, in the growth, and the initiatives that are meant to create this lasting and meaningful change. And so for me, what I envision is that this could look like you deciding with your community what change needs to happen and because you guys are the experts, right? So instead of having someone else come in and assume what you and your community needs. This can also look like leadership development and having access to a community that has all these experts and all these individuals with prior experience.
Thank you. Um, as we were talking about this, moving on to you, Jeanette, now, you mentioned as you were sharing, setting the stage for us, how this is long time coming, right? And that makes me think of why Heal was created in the first place, but most importantly, why is Heal Collective needed right now? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I think it was needed because, to be quite honest, we've been trying to raise money for over 10 years to build something like this. And the inability, unwillingness, whatever you want to call it, to use a gendered lens when it comes to girls and young women and gender expansive young people of color is staggering. Particularly those who have been impacted by public systems, faced adversity, chronic adversity, generational adversity. And so, in this current environment, in order to get where we all want to go together, I think we needed to shift the frame. Just to go and say we want to focus on girls isn't enough. So really, we wanted to broaden the frame to look at health equity in the broadest possible context, which is around climate and civic engagement and everything. Because I think otherwise, we're not lifting up the power and potential of young people to change the world if we're putting them in small boxes and separating them. So it's really building that big tent that Alicia also described so that we can harness our collective power. There's no question in my mind. I think the world would be a better place if women and girls and gender expansive young people of color had their power and their position.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Jeanette. Um, as I was listening to you, that was inspiring, even though I have the privilege and honor to be able to have endless conversations with you. Um, as somebody, as a woman of color who has system experience, like that like level of confidence, of comfort, of saying like I belong here. And
Mhm.
and I'm saying that to say because this goes to my next question to Kalisha, right? If you're talking to Michelle, but not just Michelle, everybody else out there, right? If someone out there is wondering whether their idea is quote unquote big enough, what will you want them to know? What will you say to them?
So I love this question because I've had the chance over many years to be a strategist and to be able to think about like sit at a table and think about like big moonshot, how do you make transformational change? And then I've also had the chance to be like on the ground to think about like what are really practical and, tactical ways forward.
Mhm.
So I think it's a mix of those two things. There should always be a little bit of impossibility in your idea.
Mhm.
Like that is my big thing.
Mhm.
And when I think about moonshot goals and transformational goals, they always say those are supposed to be 80% impossible and only 20% possible, right? That's how you think about like transformation. And that's not going to be every idea, right? We're not asking that every good idea has to be a moonshot goal and something that feels that audacious. But as you think about, is it big enough? Part of it should feel impossible, right? You should dream of what's possible, but you should also have out in front of you what actually feels impossible. And I think that gives you the sense of it being big enough. But then also really being able to see like what is the path forward, right? And so striking that balance of the mix of like what feels like I have the strategies, I have the innovation to be able to move forward, but I'm also putting on the table something that within current constraints feels a little bit impossible and is going to take, some audacity to be able to move towards.
Oh, that was beautiful. Just boom, mic drop. Um, um, as kind of like almost the same question to you, Audie. When we talk, when we're looking to support and fund existing and emerging alliances. We're asking them to have a shared leadership component with young people, right? As a matter of fact, we created a new component of like, we are going to spend some dollars with this youth-led efforts, right? Um, um, so with that being said, going back to the same question a little bit. What would you say to another young leader who's wondering if they should apply?
Yeah, I think if there's any other young people out there wanting to apply, I would say that we often share this experience, not just young people, but adults too, where we're constantly waiting for someone to come and save the day, to tend to the problems that we see in the community, to lead the work. And I used to be very guilty of this too, but I had to come to this realization that I am who I've been waiting for. And so I like to do it like it's all of us. We are the people we've been waiting for, and you can be the one to have a direct hand in leading the change. So now it's just like, here's the opportunity, let it be you. And through the reassurance that Heal Collective is going to meet you where you're at and support you along the way.
Thank you so much. Oh, that was beautiful. Um, so Kalisha, what does innovation look like in this work? Is it always creating something brand new, or can it just be doing some things differently, you know?
Yep. It is not always creating something brand new. I truly feel that way. I will give one concrete example on the like organizing advocacy side. I live in Mobile, Alabama. We just went through like a Supreme Court making a decision and redistricting happening to take away power from communities, right, across the South, specifically communities of color. And people are asking the question, like, what do you do? How do you fight back? Like, what is the response to this? And I think it's silly if we don't take a page out of the playbooks before us, right? If we don't look to movements that happened before us, civil rights movements, voting movements, right? There has been so much good that has happened. We have seen people organize for Black communities, LGBTQ communities, for women and girls and gender expansive people across this country. And so I think that there's so much, it isn't always just creating something brand new. I think there's so much you
Mhm.
could learn from your ancestors and your history, but it is being innovative around how to make it make sense in this moment, how to meet the moment of now, right? We're living in a completely different
Mhm.
age and space, from tech to AI to how we connect with people. Like that looks so different. So I think it's a mix. I think innovation is both being smart enough to like look behind you and look at
Mhm.
movements and work that has been created and really move things in transformational ways, and to also look in front of you about how to really make that meet the moment. So it's a mix of those two things.
Thank you. Um, I wanted to, as I move on to the next question, this is for both of you, Jeanette and Audie. So whoever wants to go first. What does meaningful youth leadership looks like to you, and not just participation? Because again, like that is one of our core
Mhm.
things for Heal Collective.
How do you want to go first?
Sure, I will. So it's kind of, I'm gonna speak on it, but it was kind of already said. So it's like the meaningful youth engagement to me kind of bleeds into several areas. So it's how we speak to another and one another and how we show up for one another. It's not checking off a box. It's genuine intentions and not being transactional with one another, but it's those authentic engagements that you have. To me, transactional is kind of like when you pass by someone and you say, "Good morning, how are you doing?" But you don't stop to actually hear how they're going, like how their day is going or like how they're doing. You just say that because it's kind of just nice and traditional to do that, right? And so that's what we're not doing. That's transactional. Here, I feel where youth leadership, there's an understanding that time comes with it. It comes with mistakes and a lot of learning opportunities and being able to lead while being supported. Whereas
Mhm.
participation to me, it sets these, it's kind of like these set expectations on you without being supported to meet those expectations. And it almost like dropping you off once it's no longer convenient.
Mm, thank you.
Well, I'll share a couple things just from the perspective of leading an organization that works with a lot of young folks. Want to emphasize what Audie said about transparent communication, understanding that people make mistakes, supporting for growth. I want to say that it also requires organizations to be willing to engage in youth leadership where they have absolute decision making. That means they don't make a decision and you go back and change it. We're not talking about input, we're talking about decision making. Also, absolute budget authority. They have a budget, they manage the budget. They design where the money's going to go. They deal with shortages and overrides. Is absolute decision making. And I think that that is a hard place for people to be who lead organizations. You hear youth engagement, youth participation. We're talking about leadership that actually is actionable and respected. Even if there are mistakes, and you talk through the mistakes. What did you learn as an organization? What did you learn as an individual? Otherwise, it is not. We're not walking the talk.
Thank you. I'm gonna throw another curveball to all of you. I hope that's okay. It's a simple, big question. Is there anything else? I want you to take another minute just to say anything that you want to say to the people that are here with us, hoping to apply, hoping to be able to be part of this inaugural cohort. Anything that you want to say to them.
Just dream beyond this moment. I wake up every morning and I think about just the reality that we're in. I think about the things that feel really hard. I think about thinking about the future for the young people in my house, for my kids, right? And sometimes it feels hard to dream beyond this moment that we're in. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Make it reflect in your applications, but also in the work that you're doing on a day to day to really be able to imagine beyond this really tough moment that we're in.
Thank you. Jeanette, Audie?
Yeah, I just wanted to like add really quickly, but one of the things that's very important is I like to take the perspective of someone who would be applying, and so I would assume like maybe I would need an application to be perfect, but I wanted to outline that that's not the case, is that part of this is meeting people where they are, and Heal is rooted in several beliefs where they want to give opportunities to everyone. And so when you also come as your authentic selves and you show us what topics you're passionate about, it makes it 10 times easier to understand what your vision is. And then also outlining how you plan to dismantle all these forms of marginalization to help give us insight into the simple acknowledgement of the issue.
I would just add, I think to close, just to be transparent and authentic, right? We know that we will not have enough money to fund every application. And what I want to say is I want to invite everybody to stick with us. This is just the beginning. We're actively raising money now to keep doing this. We're committed to it, but stick with us. Like, stay engaged. There'll be ways for you to stay connected to Justice and Joy, to the Heal Collective. Just stick with us, because it's going to take all of us to move this forward. And so I don't want people to be disheartened. I mean, look at you. There are 246 people on now, and I see you already doing what Heal is about. You're building community through the chat. Who lives near you? That's what it's about, right? So we'll commit to continuing to find ways to engage people, whether you're funded or not. I just hope that you will stick with us on this journey.
Wow, thank you. That is so hard to follow. Thank you all for answering the questions I had prepped. Give a big shout out to all of you. One, because that was beautiful, but two, we're 6 minutes ahead of time, which is kind of hard, to keep on. As we move forward with the Q&A, I guess, one thing that I wanted to say is through you heard through all of this, right? Like when we're looking for candidates, we're looking really for are you intergenerational? Are you really genuinely sharing power, right? Are you trying to think outside the box, right? And sometimes thinking outside the box is that something new. And most importantly, like how is this work going to move the whatever it's needed for and with our girls, young women, and gender expansive young people. That is what Heal is. That is the core of what we're building here. So with that being said, Carrie, do you want to share with us a couple of the questions that people have been asking us?
Yes, absolutely. I hope everybody can see the Q&A function. There are a handful of really great questions, and some of them have been answered already. So I encourage folks to go there and see if their question has been answered already. We are getting quite a few questions if this opportunity is also for folks outside of the US. And there's a few questions that go along with that. And I just want to say right off the bat that this opportunity is only available to those based in the US and doing US-based work. So thank you for those questions. But the ones that go along with that are, what if somebody is based in the US but doing work outside of the US? And also a follow-up question for age limits, and we can follow up with that. But Michelle, will you answer the question, if you're US based but doing work outside, do you qualify?
Yeah, I think it goes back to exactly what you said, right? We're looking to primarily fund people that are not just in the US, but the work is happening here. Again, this goes back to, we know how much funding, how much opportunities are needed around the globe, but going back to what we said, we have a limited amount of funding that we're able to give. So we're gonna focus on the people that are here. So if you're doing work outside, even though you're here, you're not going to be able to qualify for this funding opportunity, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. To follow up, there's a few questions that are based on age range. Right now, our applicants for the youth group are ages 18 to 32, and folks have questions if their group serves folks under that age of 18. Do they qualify for this work? So I think what's important to know is that the applicants themselves must be above the age of 18. But Michelle, are they able to apply for this opportunity if they service or work with folks under the age of 18?
I based on the conversations that I have and the history that has that Justice and Joy has done the work. Justice and Joy doesn't care. As a matter of fact, we would love to engage as many young people as we want. But again, going back on like the decision making of funding and all of those things that play a role. So like again, if you're doing work and you're just engaging then, and like, please go ahead. And again, I'm saying this as I'm thinking out loud, going back to, we're building the plane as we're going. So all of these questions, please know that our team is gonna go back and review them as well. But I invite Jeanette to answer this question as well.
Yeah, I think the age limit of 18 to 32 was more specifically around young people who are submitting proposals for work that they are leading and generated versus like the age range that you support in terms of advocacy and the work that you do.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a couple questions regarding the application itself. When you log on to the submittable platform, you will see two different sections, one that's titled Emerging and Existing Alliances, and one that's titled Youth Leadership Opportunities. Folks are wondering which one fits them best and how to determine which one to select when they're looking to apply.
I mean, I think again for the youth application, like one of the core components that you have to be between the ages of 18 to 32. Because you can still be youth-led, like even if it's co-led, but if you have somebody that is not within those ages, we'll go back to, could fit into the emerging or existing alliance.
Okay, perfect. There are quite a few questions about the number of grants that we anticipate giving out and what the total amount is that we're giving away, and how many or how much we are looking to fund per person or organization. We went over that briefly in the PowerPoint, but do you mind reiterating, Michelle, what those amounts are?
Yeah. So we don't have a specific number of how many we're going to select. Again, we're going to see uh, what is the total. And, again, it goes back to like the scoring level of the individuals and then as a collective. Because, again, the funding is between 25 to 100,000. So even if you're asking for 100, based on the total amount of what we see, we might not. I'm just like thinking out loud here. This is the grant making's decision. But I can see them saying, okay, we might not give you 100, but we can give you 50, so we can give 50 to somebody else so they can kick it off, right? While we continue to raise more money, while we continue to like connect it with other people that can fund your work. So again, we don't know the specific amount of number. What we do know is that Justice and Joy will give a total amount of seven. Oh my gosh, can't even say
50,
no. Thank you.
750,000. Yeah.
Thank
But we're actively raising to increase that pot.
you. Thanks.
Okay. Next question kind of goes along with that a little bit. In terms of age, who qualifies, if there's any fiscal limitations on who can apply. So I have a few folks asking if they need to be a 501(c)(3) organization, or if they're still just getting off the ground. Do they need a fiscal sponsor? We also went over that briefly, but if you could just provide a little bit more clarity, Michelle, that would be great.
Passing it to Jeanette.
You do not have to be a 501(c)(3), and you actually don't have to have a fiscal sponsor to apply. We'll work with you if you're selected as a grantee.
And before we move on to the next one, again, as like we're trying to limit all of the barriers, but like some of those barriers might show up. So if you don't have that, based on the IRS status, if you get more than 600, we'll have to report it as an income. So just wanted to put that there, but we don't really mind if you don't use those things.
Okay, a couple folks asked about youth participatory, oh my gosh, that always messes me up. YPAR, Youth Participatory Action Research, and if that aligns with a collective. So two folks are interested on if that would be considered an existing alliance.
I think that's an interesting question. I don't think that's for me to answer. I think, like, and I even asked this question to Kalisha and Audie about what would an application, how does innovation looks like, what you're hoping to see. So maybe, again, sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but I wonder what are your thoughts on it as you're the one who's going to be making decisions on this? I'm happy to start.
Yeah.
I think, there's like such a fine line between, we're not really looking to fund projects, direct service work, going back to like what is an emerging alliance, what is an existing alliance, right? And again, like we left those defined, but we're asking people to be innovative. And if you're able to say the YPAR is going to mobilize, it's going to organize, it could look like that, right? It doesn't matter how you use it, but just making sure that we are not funding research specific. We're not funding briefs or roundtables at one time.
Yeah, and I think it could be a component of it. Jeanette and I have both been in spaces, right? Remember like the
Mhm.
research collaboratives that came together focused
Yep.
on, young people and gender
Mhm.
expansive, folks of color. And it was beyond just the piece around research being executed, but it was really building tables, shifting power dynamics around how we think about research, right? Being able to use research collectively, right, across tables, right, to really mobilize, folks. So I think that I certainly think research can be a component of it. I think YPAR, any participatory action research, I think you're already getting to a place where you're building tables of, people who and shifting power dynamics. So I think it really depends on then how you're leveraging that work within movement space as well and what you propose there. Jeanette, thoughts?
Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm reading all the questions, paying attention. I'll just be honest.
The question, do you mind rereading the question, Carrie?
Yeah, specifically, can these funds be used to fund YPAR efforts?
Oh, I agree with Kalisha's response. I mean, we're not funding, and Michelle said it too, we're not funding specific projects. But if it's part of the overall work, that would be your call. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. There are a few questions regarding specifics for qualifications, if they will be shared on the call. I invite you to go to our application, which is through Submittable, and we will share the link. The link is on our website and can be found on our socials. But that has all the information for eligibility. It includes an FAQ sheet and methods to contact us directly if the FAQ sheet does not answer your questions. So for specifics about eligibility, I do encourage you to go to Submittable and take a look, see if that answers your question, and then please do reach out to us after if you have further questions regarding eligibility specifics. There are a few questions in the chat asking about collaboration with an organization and applying under one application. So if folks are affiliated with a cohort or affiliated with a group, I also have other questions about folks at a university who might be engaged with a coalition. Can they apply under one application, or what does that process look like?
Hmm. For some reason, Jeanette, this makes me
Mm,
think of the like government agencies, that they have, um, I don't know, sections in
mhm.
it. I think you answered. I can't remember the answer in itself. Do you mind reading it again for
Uh,
me? Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Jeanette.
No, I was just going to say it depends on, yeah, it really would depend on the proposal, I think. I mean, if they're part of an existing alliance or coalition, I would assume then that the coalition would be submitting the application, including that work.
Hmm.
But, every circumstance is different, so would have to actually see the proposal.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you. Um, this question just came through, and I think it's really important when folks are thinking about the lens in which they are looking to apply and tell us more about their work. So I'm going to read it word for word. This says, for clarity, can you say more about how you're expecting the gender lens to show up? Does the work have to be exclusive to women, girls, and gender expansive folks, or can it include young men and boys as long as gender justice is the goal of the work?
Hmm. Jeanette?
Alicia?
It's such a hard, it's a hard question. I think in all the work we do, we need to, and I like the two-sided coin reference. We need to be focused on gender justice writ large, right? And I think back to the ecosystem piece that is, um, being able to focus on the whole of community systems, how gender roles, gender justice plays out. I do think we are interested here in also seeing like young women, gender expansive, young people of color centered in the work and the projects, right? And so I think
Mhm.
it could be a both and there. It doesn't have to be exclusively, right? It doesn't have to be like there are not impacts that, that things that will impact all genders, right? But I do think that we want to see them centered in sort of the projects that we're supporting here. I hope that answers the question.
I think so.
Okay. Quite a few of these I think we've answered. Let me see. Mhm. Yeah, I think we've covered quite a bit. I have one question that we haven't gone over as thoroughly. How do you define direct service work? And would that be a good fit? I think we covered that part a little bit more.
And
So
this is so funny. I know Audie and I were laughing together, right? You have to give me confirmation. Do you want to add? I think you have such a beautiful way of how you see it. Again, we're just thinking out loud right now. in some of these questions, we're going to go back as a collective and we might add them to our fact sheet as well. But we'll always invite you to follow up and email us so we can engage in that conversation. But Audie, do you want to add a little bit on that direct service work?
Yeah, so I struggled with the concept just a little bit too when I first was learning it. So I created this analogy to help other people like better understand. So imagine that there's this river, and people keep falling and drowning in this river. And so someone with direct services says, "Let me help you pull you out of the river, pull you out of what you are currently experiencing." Whereas someone who's taking on more of like a systemic change approach, they might ask, why is this problem, like, why are people falling into the river to begin with? Like, where is this problem stemming from? And so they go to look and see, maybe that a bridge broke. And so people kept walking on this bridge and people kept falling into the river. And again, so I think we've already covered that direct services doesn't need to be excluded and it could be included, but there's definitely a difference.
Thanks so much, Audie.
Okay, we have another question that says, for those who may not be funded this round but still want to participate in the shared learning space, is there an opportunity for that?
Let me know if we're thinking the same thing, Jeanette.
Where?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, there will be. We will create it. Yeah.
And again, this goes back to we're asking you to stay connected. And something that I have learned, and if you are a fundraiser yourself, you know that you might hear a no today, but that does not mean that you're going to get a no tomorrow, right? Jeanette is working day and night to raise more money so we go above and beyond the 750, but for the next years to come as well.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. This is a good question. Can formal organizations apply with a project that highlights youth leadership, or must it be youth-led or a youth-focused organization?
Hmm.
Can you read that one more time?
Yes. Can formal organizations apply with a project that highlights youth leadership, or must it be youth-led or a youth-focused organization?
I can try. I
Go
don't think
ahead.
I don't think it's about highlight. I think it goes back to what we have been saying, right? Like collective, like us sharing power, the two of you, right? Centering young people's power, right? Making decisions together. Because when I'm listening highlight, that makes me feel like, like yes, you're working with for young people, but not with, right? So again, even if you take a look at the PowerPoint, the way we talk, the way we do our work at Justice and Joy, we say with and for young people at every single initiative, projects, even like within staff, we have young people with lived expertise leading the way, helping us shape it. So I don't think it's about highlighting. I think it's about how do we use the intergenerational lens.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. This is a similar question, and we kind of touched on this in answering some previous ones, but will funding be open to operational versus project-specific work?
Does that cover, I don't know, we can't get an answer, but if there is a certain percentage that's acceptable for administrative overhead costs and indirect costs, which I would consider general operations.
Mm.
Yeah, and some of that information, including the percentage amount for administration, can be found in the FAQ sheet that was mentioned. that is on the submittable link that we will share out. Let's see. Quite a few of these have been answered. So I do encourage you to go see the answered tab on the Q&A or reach out to us if you have a question after that. Let's see.
Can I was looking at the questions, if it's okay while you look for another one.
Yeah, please do.
So somebody added, if selected, will the grant cycle and cohort begin October 1st, 2026, and when would it end? It would end September 30th of 2027. And then they asked, additionally, will the dates and times of the cohort meetings will be listed on the application so people can ensure full commitment to engagement? Thank you so much for that question. We know that as we kick off October of 2026, we're going to have a virtual call. Those are still to be discussed, to be shared, those dates. But thank you for that. We might actually put it in the FAQ in the next few days so people can reserve the time and space. But as for everything else, building that cohort experience, we're gonna do our best when everybody is fully onboarded within the first few weeks. We're going to try to schedule with everybody. Does this times works, right? Because it's not just about us, but meeting everybody's uh, times as well.
I do want to make sure we have a question or comment in the chat about folks who are outside of the United States, and by United States that does include territories, about how they could stay connected. And I hope you're still on the call. I'd just like to ask you to send us an email to the HEAL Collective, heal@justiceandjoy.natl.org, so that we can have a conversation about it. We do have some partners doing global work, so we definitely want to stay engaged.
Perfect. So a few more questions about youth-led and when to select youth-led versus emerging or existing alliances. One question asked, let's see, what if you're under 32 years old, but also with an alliance of almost 10 years? Is there a preference for which application they should choose?
Kalisha, Audie, Jeanette.
I say that again.
Which
Yeah.
application? Go ahead.
Right. Which application route should you take? Which should you choose if you're under 32 years old, but also with an alliance of almost 10 years, which I would say is an existing or established alliance?
Right.
Which one?
Well, the third category of young folks is designed to give the money directly to young people. So if the alliance or coalition also wanted to apply separately, we would consider those two separate applications. If you want to apply with the alliance, it's really up to you and the alliance to decide what makes the most sense in terms of strategy and approach.
And if this person wanted to apply as an individual, they would select the youth leadership investment.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Similar to that, could a young person apply for a youth-led project that is hosted by a foundation? For example, a youth program director leading a youth program.
I'm thinking.
Can you read the question one more time, and we're gonna try to wrap it up because it's already 5.
Oh, yeah, time flew. Yes, could a young person apply for a youth-led project that is hosted by a foundation?
I mean, of course, I will say yes, but the only thing that, like if you going back to the same answer of Jeanette said, if the funding it will go through the foundation, then you will have to go and apply through like the emerging. But if you're applying as an individual, as a youth, then you will have to apply within the youth application. Yeah. Thank you so much for all of the questions, for engaging with us. If you have any other questions, one, we'll ask you to go through our website to learn more about the initiative, to go through the fact sheet to see some of the questions that you might still have. But if not, we'll always welcome and invite you to email us at heal@Justice and Joy National. Oh, my bad. Heal@Justice and Joy, natl.org. And we'll get back to you. Thank you so much. We look forward to being in community with all of you in one way or another. We appreciate you.